Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be discussing about Microsoft Identity and MSAL. We will be learning about the core platform components, the service principal architecture, permission, consent, conditional access, authentication, integration, and MSAL. So let's first understand what a Microsoft Identity platform is. The Microsoft Identity Platform for developers is a set of tools that includes the authentication service. There are some open source libraries and application management tools. And if you dive into deep, you can understand that the standard auth service, they are fully compliant with auth 2.0 and OpenID, so that the developers can authenticate several identity types that include the Microsoft Entra ID or your personal Microsoft account, and you can also bring in your external identities. See, the external identities are authenticated or integrated by using two services. The first one is Azure Active Directory B2C, Azure AD B2C, or using the Microsoft Entra external ID. Also, you got some external open source libraries, such as Microsoft Authentication Library (MSAL). You have also have the Microsoft Identity Platform endpoint. So that works with the Microsoft Authentication libraries or any other standard compliant library. It implements human readable scopes and eliminates the overhead of building custom row security protocol handlers. You also have the Azure portal application, that is application management portal, app management portal, and you can also use PowerShell, Graph APIs, and PowerShells to automate DevOps actions. It For developers, the Microsoft Identity Platform offers integration of modern innovations in the identity and security space, such as passwordless authentication, setup authentication, and also conditional access. So you don't have to implement such functionality yourself. Application integrated with the Microsoft Identity Platform natively take advantage of such innovations. Then let's explore what are service principles. So an application to delegate identity and access management functions to Microsoft Entra ID, the application must be registered with Microsoft Entra tenant. Microsoft Entra tenant. There you are when you're creating an identity configuration for your application. It allows you to integrate with Microsoft Entra ID. When you register an application in Azure portal, you have to choose whether it is single tenant or multi-tenant. So if single tenant, it is only accessible within your tenant. If it is multi-tenant, it is accessible with other tenants as well. So if you register an application in the portal, an application object will be created. So application object is like a globally unique instance, globally unique blueprint definition of an application across all directories, that is across all tenants. You'll have an application object and also a service principal object. So if you compare this with an object oriented programming, the application object is like the class or the template, and the service principal object is like the object or something that you develop from the template, that is application object. So an application object is scoped to its one and only application object. So an Entra application has only one application object, and it resides in the Microsoft Entra tenant. That is the first tenant that you've created. It is also called as the home tenant. It's called home residence. So it will be in the initial home tenant where the application registered was made, and it has the core schema, that is the template, and it defines three main properties, that three main aspects of an application. That the first one is how the service can issue tokens, and second is that what are the resources that the application might need to access, and thirdly the actions that the application can take. So these three things are defined by the application object. The service principal object is for, like, when you to access a resource secured by Microsoft Entra tenant, the entity that is requesting access must be represented by a service principal or security principal. This needs to be true for both the users and also for the apps. For users, you have a user principal, and the application will have a service principal. So there are three types of service principals. The first one is the application, and second one is for managed identity. So the application instance, then comes managed identity and legacy principles. So application, this type of service principle is a local representation or application instance of a global application object in a single tenant. So this will be unique for each tenant. For example, say your application has got three tenants, it will be there will be a separate service principle for each of the tenant. Okay, so it defines what the application can do in a specific tenant, and who can access the app and what resource the app can access in a particular tenant. So managed identity, this type of service principle is used to represent a managed identity. Managed identity provide an identity for the applications to use when connecting to resources that support Microsoft Entra authentication. So it is highly secure identities automatically managed by Azure. So it enables cloud services to safely authenticate with target database, keywords and storages without needing a credential or a code. So this service principles representing managed identity, they can be granted access and permissions, but they cannot be updated or modified directly. Then comes legacy type. These type of service principles are used to represent legacy applications, which the app is created before app registrations were introduced, or an app that is created through legacy experience. So a legacy service principle can have credentials, service principal names, reply URLs, and other properties. So that are authorized that an authorized user can edit, but does not have an associated app registration. So an application object and service principle has got the application object has got a one to many relationship with software application. That is, an application object can have multiple software applications and a one to many relationship with the service principal object. That means that an application object has got a one to one relationship with the software application, and also and has a one to many relationship with the service principal object. That means an application object can have only one software application associated with that, and also a software application can have only one application object, while an application object can have many service principal objects. but a service principal object can have only one application object. Okay. Then we'll move on to scope and permission types. There are basically like two types of access. The first one is called delegated access, and the second one is called app only access. So delegated access are used by apps that has got a signed in user present. So, for these apps, and either the user or an administrator consents or gives authorization on behalf of the signed in user. So, the app is delegated with permissions to act as a signed in user. So, it requires a user or admin approval. Like it depends on the scope or the sensitivity of the permissions that are required. Okay, then comes app only access permission. App only access permissions that are used by apps that runs without a signed in user. It is typically utilized by daemons or background services. So only an administrator can consent to this. So it is a highly privileged, and only or tenant administrator can give authorization to such apps. It's like app only access permissions. Okay. Then we'll understand about user consent. User consent has mainly there are three consent types. So application Microsoft Identity Platform rely on consent in order to gain access to necessary resources or API. Mainly, there are three types of consents. The first one is static consent, a dynamic and incremental consent, and admin consent. So, static user consent means that you have to specify all the permissions an app needs in the app's configuration in Azure portal. So, Microsoft, if the user hasn't granted consent for this app, then Microsoft Identity Platform prompts the user to provide consent. So static permissions also enable administrators to consent in behalf of users. So there are two major drawback. First one is that you have to request all permissions in one go. That will be a bit difficult for the user. It hinders the user experience because there will be a long list of permissions asked in the beginning itself. And also the second thing is that the app needs to know all resources that it will require ever need to access ahead of time. So this is going to be difficult, but on the other hand, increment and dynamic consent is that this will ask permission during execution inside the scope query. That means that every time the user finds out a new feature, and if it requires a new access, then it will access on the go. Okay. So admin consent on the other hand, it is used for highly sensitive system wide scopes. An administrator grants approval for the entire organization. It eliminates the need for individual user prompt cycles. So how the individual user consent is requested? It is used by using the scope query. For example, it will be added in the query. It will be like scope equal to the scope, and for example user dot read. So scope parameter is a space separated list of delegated permissions. So each permission is indicated by appending the permission value to the resource identifier. Okay. So conditional access. A conditional access feature in Microsoft Entra ID offers one of several ways that you can use to secure your app and protect a service. Conditional access enables developers to protect services in a multitude of ways. For example, like using multi-factor authentication, and then only allowing only in tune enrolled devices and also it I can give network location restrictions and IP ranges. This is used for um, like you can prevent certain users from certain locations from accessing your application. Okay. In most common cases, condition access doesn't change the app's behavior or require any changes from the developer. Only certain cases when an app indirectly or silently requests a token for a service does an app require code change or handle conditional access challenges. It may be as simple as performing an interactive sign in request. But certain scenarios require code to handle conditional access challenge. They are for apps that are performing on behalf of a flow, and also for apps that are accessing multiple services or resources, or there are a single page apps, or using web apps. So when API is impacted by the newly activated rules, silent background OBA flows fail, then applications must receive the claims challenge and prompt users to interactively complete the authorization. Okay. Then let's move on to authentication by using Microsoft Authentication Library. So Microsoft Authentication Library enables developer to acquire tokens from the Microsoft Identity platform in order to authenticate users and access acquired web APIs. So it acquires security tokens from the Microsoft Identity platform to authenticate users and access secured web APIs. MSIL gives you many ways to get tokens with consistent API for many formats. So we don't need to directly use auth libraries or code against protocols. It acquires tokens on behalf of a user and behalf of an application. It maintains a token cache and refreshes token. That is, there is robust caching include. So it has out of box protocol, and that means that we don't need to directly use auth libraries or code against the protocol. And also it supports cross platform in under major stacks like .NET, Angular, React, all these things. It helps you to specify the audience that you want your application to sign in, and helps you to set up your application from configurable files, and it also helps you to troubleshoot your app. Okay. We have two types of clients: the public client and confidential client. The client is a software entity that has a unique identifier assigned by an identity provider. So a public client application, they run on devices that are device level, so they cannot be trusted to safely keep application secrets. Can only have access to web APIs. They cannot have only APIs. You can only access to web APIs. So anytime the source or compiled bytecode of the given app is transmitted anywhere, it can be read, disassembled, or otherwise inspected by untrusted parties. So they cannot store any kind of secrets. It strictly queries APIs on behalf of actively signed in users. It cannot have client secrets to it. Confidential client applications, they run on servers, such as like web apps, web API apps, or service daemon apps. They are considered difficult to access by users or attackers, and therefore can adequately hold configuration time secrets. So it can hold secrets. Um, uh, these secrets are used to assert proof of its identity. So the client ID is exposed through web browsers, but the secret is passed only in the back challenge and never directly exposed. Okay, so it is capable of direct application to application access without any active user intervention. So Microsoft authentication flow, there are different authentication flows that are provided by Microsoft authentication library. First one is using authorization code. Authorization code authentication flow, that the user sign in and downstream API integration on behalf of user. Second is client credentials, direct application identity integration, perfect for a server to server task. um, so it is supported only by confidential clients only. Then comes device code. Device code is for sign in for input constrained hardware like IoT, smart TV, CLI agents. It is only for public. Then comes on behalf of authentication flow. It is used by middle tier APIs, that is querying downstream resources on behalf of callers. It is only for confidential clients. Then integrated Windows authentication or IWA. They are silent, non-interactive authentication for domain Entra joint items. They are for public. Okay. Then how are you going to initialize MSAL or in .NET? MSAL in .NET recommends instantiation using fluent builders like public client application builder and confidential client application builder. The required parameters are application or client ID, directory and tenant ID, and directed URIs and client secrets. So that's all for this session. Thanks for watching.